There was famous mythology talk for over 20 years about the epic Hatfield-McCoy, Murphy and Stevens feud, yet here he is, brought together, Murphy and Stevens, by one thing, the force that could break down all walls, the specter of the Orange Menace himself, Donald Trump, as President of the United States. Now, I'm not out renting a tandem bicycle yet, but it's good to put the feud behind us.
That was Republican strategist Mike Murphy talking about his longtime feud with his fellow Republican strategist, Stuart Stevens, who he had as a guest today on his podcast. It's called Radio Free GOP. It's available on iTunes. The two longtime Republican consultants have been bitter rivals until recently, but they've come together to face a new obstacle, Donald J. Trump. Mike is with us from Los Angeles, and for the first time in TV history, they say he's joined by his new chum, Stuart Stevens. He worked as a senior strategist on many presidential campaigns, including Mitt Romney's in 2012. So Stuart is in Stowe, Vermont. Stuart, what do you and Mike see the same regarding Trump?
Well, I think it proves that age-old maxim that disgust conquers all. Mike and I both have worked for candidates across the spectrum of the Republican Party, and have worked for people we really care about and are proud of, and just see Donald Trump as someone who is completely out of the mainstream of how we'd like to define politics and specifically the Republican Party.
Stuart, in your wildest dream, and you've worked on some very, very well-known campaigns, could you have ever imagined us here? And beyond the fact that, obviously people are bored with status quo, and what happened? Is it the Republicans just took their eye off the ball and started to not get that the world is a populist world, whether you're coming at it from the left or the right? What happened here?
Listen, I think you hit the nail on the head. The inability to imagine what might happen, that is that Trump could win, I think helped Trump win, because there was sort of a consensus, of which I certainly was part of. I mean, I'm the guy that wrote that he would drop out before Iowa because he was going to lose Iowa. So, I was as wrong or more than anybody. I think that enabled him. It's like World War I, the guns of August, because you can't imagine this is going to happen. The next thing you know, you're 2 years in the Somme. I think the party, there's a school of thought in the party that Trump is the perfect candidate for. He's fulfilling all these sort of cockamamie fantasies that if you just yell at the media loud enough, you'll beat the media. That we can win just with white votes. There are these, what I call the lost tribes of the Amazon out there. Just go up the river far enough and beat the drum loudly enough. They'll come to the riverbank and vote for you. It's almost like you had to test drive this to see that it was just completely nuts.
Mike, what do you think of what Brother Stevens is saying?
We totally agree on this. I mean, half the primary voters went off and had a lost weekend bender, and now they've woken up next to Mrs. Godzilla, and it's a disaster. But he hit that chord of resentment politics inside the Republican primary, where the incentives are often to do everything you need to do to lose the general election. So now we're paying the price. And, Stuart and I have had our disagreements, but we both feel so strongly about this. We started chatting on the phone, and now he very graciously did the Radio Free GOP podcast, and we have a similar diagnosis, and we agree a lot about what we have to do to clean up this mess after the election.
I want to ask both you guys this question because clearly you hit a nerve, but has something else happened here that for here on in, we have been spoiled at home that we are going to want, demand, accept, embrace any non-politician, an entertainer? George Clooney starts to run. Part of it has been so damn much fun to watch, because it is not a politician, it's an entertainer. So whether it's Clooney, whether it's Oprah Winfrey, is this now teeing up that every presidential election is open for business way beyond politicians?
Well, look, I work with George Clooney on K Street, and I also know Donald Trump a little bit. I think Clooney's got about 75 IQ points on Trump, and is a much more sensible, grounded, sane human. I don't think so. I think you're going to find that this is sort of a rejection of that, and go back to an idea that governing is serious business.
No, but to your point, but I guess that's my point. If a candidate did come along that had the best of both worlds, that had the Q rating, the star appeal, the entertainment value, and actually was an intelligent, literate, considered person, I think we've spoiled the populace, and that's going to be something to contend with from here on in. Mike?
Ronald Reagan
I
was an
think-
actor. And,
Exactly.
he did
Yeah.
okay.
Exactly.
I worked for Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was famous, but he worked a lot to have viable policy plans and surround himself with great policy advisors because he took the governing side of things seriously. So, yes, I think you're going to see more pop culture in politics, more what in the movie business that we call pre-aware titles move into this space. But I think the voters after the Trump thing are going to develop more of a filter where maybe a Kardashian is not such a good idea, but somebody who's done their homework, like a Clooney on the left or a Gary Sinise on the right, could be an attractive candidate. But I think Trump's mistakes will raise the bar a little while pop culture is here to stay.
Stuart, I keep being confused and surprised by the fact you've got some Republicans, consultants, and office holders who say never Trump. And then you got some who are lining up. We talked last segment about George P. Bush being for Trump. Do you expect a lot more people as we get closer to November, office holders and advisors to say, you know what, I just can't be for Trump and come public, or not?
I think that probably will happen. Listen, I've tried to be very uncritical of anyone who disagrees with me about Donald Trump. In part, no other reason than Donald Trump is so critical of anyone who does disagree with him. So I think it's particularly important at this moment in our politics to allow for differences. And I know a lot of well-intentioned good people who support Donald Trump and think he'd be a good president. I'm not with them. But this latest Monmouth poll, Trump is winning 5% of the winning the white vote by 5%. Romney won it by 29.
Yeah.
He's shrinking the party. In Florida, he's getting 12% of Hispanic voters. Romney got 40. And there's some reason to believe Romney lost.
Yeah.
So we're headed in the wrong direction. We need to be expanding instead of shrinking, and we're in the shrinking business.
Mike, you both worked with Mitt Romney. Real quick, if Romney were the nominee, where would this race be?
He'd be ahead and winning.
Head in winning. Are you guys going to work
Yeah,
together
4
on
or 5
anything?
points.
Or is this a one-off?
Stay tuned for our musical. We're talking to Broadway right now.
Yeah, excellent.
It's going to be huge.
The Broadway musical, Stevens and Murphy, or is it Murphy and Stevens? Guys, thank you very much.